Hello, and welcome to the beginning of week 3 for the Inspiring Workplaces Summer Series in partnership with H&H. We were wondered whether we should do the summer series this year, whether, being hopeful, would we be back doing physical events, conferences, small events, and we said, no, let's move everything to 2022 for the sanity of our team, in the most part, and then the safety of our guests. So everything got moved back. And we went forward with the summer series, and it's going fantastically well. And today is kind of reinforced that decision with another 4 weeks potentially being added to restrictions here in the UK because of the pandemic. So hope everybody's okay in dealing with that situation well. At the other end of this camera around the UK, we're almost there, but I think the constant shifting of that line can cause stress and tensions, and even more so for people who are trying to plan returning to the office and not returning to work. So good luck with all your planning, and I'm sure this hasn't helped today. We do have an awesome, inspirational person as our guest, so perfect for today. Tomorrow, we are actually announcing the finalists for the North America and EMEA Inspiring Workplaces Awards in 2021, so watch out for that announcement. Our guest today has actually been a previous winner of Employee Engagement Workplace of the Year in North America, and going to be talking about something really important for all the time, but especially over the past 15 months, and I think over the next 6 to 12 months too, the self-care for the practitioner. So please welcome Misty Johnson, Oratokhai, from Events DC, and like I say, Organisation of the Year a couple of years ago in North America. So please welcome Misty.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Good to see you. Great to see you. Shame it was not in person. I do miss America and Washington and your team there at Events DC, but it's fantastic that you're here at the Summer Series.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And, you are part of the motivation for what we're going to talk about today, because every time you check in, you always say, how are you doing? And so that's really cool that you do the check-in when you make all this happen, but you want to make sure we're doing okay.
Well, thank you. You make me want to ask how you are. So, but anyway, I'm going to leave it to you, and I'll see you in about 20-25 minutes.
Okay, thanks. So one of the things that happened during all of the last year and almost year and a half was that my team was constantly on go. And I don't think it was until the pandemic when I realized that even pre-pandemic, I was always asking my team to be on go, and I was always on go. And during this period of time, I started to reflect on what we actually do. And, I realized that the engagement professional is expected to do so many different things. We're the strategic partner to our organizations. So we're a good business partner to our executives and to our managers. We're the employee advocate. So we serve kind of in a neutral voice where we're trying to make sure that the employee feels heard and that they're having a great experience. And then also the change champions. And so as a strategic partner, I realized that we spend a lot of our time trying to garner respect for what we do by understanding the business, trying to get abreast of all the strategic plans and understand the company's growth opportunities. But also, we support talent acquisition and retention and quality programming. And so as much as we're focused on engagement, we're also focused on what talent comes in the building and how we keep it. And then we're constantly looking at ways to implement initiatives that align with the corporate goals, but also meeting our employees' needs. So I was like, wow, strategic partner, that's a pretty big job. Then I looked at the advocate, during a time like this, especially, how do you keep people motivated? How do you support initiatives that are increasing productivity when there's so much uncertainty? How do we create environments that promote these highly effective, fully engaged employees when they're worried about the very basics, like whether or not they've got, a place that's appropriate for them to do a virtual meeting? And how do we identify opportunities to enhance their experiences? So again, I said, wow, this is a hefty job. Then change champions. We're supporting the initiatives, and believe me, we saw so many different initiatives that we had to take on during this period of time. We were actively engaging and networking with even resources outside of our organization. And, luckily we had a lot of people reaching out to try and support, but we were also supporting our community. And then reinforcing corporate values at a time when values can come into question, depending on the decisions that an employer is going to make. So on March 13th of 2020, I just remember it vividly. Our business is sports, entertainment, conventions, and meetings. We live on people. Our operations suspended, not something that we ever thought we would say. Every single facility and venue that we had went absolutely dark. The hospitality industry was in a tailspin. Our peers were separating people. 80% of workforces in an industry, and sometimes 100% of workforces, were gone. And we were immediately in the war room with our CEO trying to figure out what next. So we've gone from a vibrant type of business where everybody is on site. We don't do remote work, right? It's just not the fabric of what we're built of. And we had to look at what's next. What is our new world? What is the plan? And, luckily, years of, trying to learn operations and understand operations, I then, as an engagement person, as somebody who's people focused, had to move into an operations mode for people. And I'm not certain that people really understand that as much as we are not the day-to-day operations of an organization, we make the machine move. And we were making hard decisions like, how do we sustain this workforce? We've got venues that are closed all over. And part of that discussion was, can we maintain all these people? In March and April, everybody was gone from our peer sets. They were maintaining about 20% of their workforces. Luckily, as we went through these iterations, and I was working with my team because we were responsible for figuring out how to sustain the workforce. We were doing the modeling for whether we could keep people, whether we need to reduce hours, whether we needed to do pay cuts. And then on top of having to do that kind of modeling, we were trying to figure out, how do we engage these people? We had people who, even though our operations shut down, there were people who needed to secure and maintain the facilities. So there were people always on site. We had people who had never worked remotely in their lives. And luckily, with my technology team, we had been planning in advance as we saw this unfold. And so we were ready to make sure that we could stand up a remote workforce immediately. We'd already prepped all of the laptops that we needed. We looked at the workforce and who needed what. But then we had to engage the people who had no work at all. Yes, there were people who we had to send home, but we had no work for them, nor did we know anywhere in the future whether we would have work for them. So as I'm asking my team to do all of these different things, I, for the first time, realized that you could have a level of fatigue in uncertain circumstances, in adversity, where things have changed, where you're not seeing people's faces every day. And I was asking, this is a short list, so I want to just assure everybody that this is just a few things of what I was asking my team to do. I literally was asking them to conceptualize and model a way to retain all of our staff. So we were trying to figure out how not to lay anybody off. How could we pay people all the way through? Even the people who we had no work for. We were developing a return to work plan, or as Matt mentioned earlier, a return to office plan, since so many people were working remotely. We were also supporting the research for the Reopen DC initiatives. So I was asking my team to work 24 hours a day, kind of 7 days a week, looking at research across the United States as well as the world to see how people in our industry were handling change, how they were going to reopen, when they were going to reopen, what would the phased approach be. So we supported the overall district initiative while trying to do our own initiatives as well. We had to operationalize our mobile workforce. Again, a lot of people where we were faced with my team, supporting TMD, which is one of the areas that we're responsible for, because we had a lot of people who might not have had the technological skill to go totally remote. We had to develop and implement our virtual training program. We're known for developing original content and presenting it in front of people. We had to create and implement the COVID-19 facing intranet segment. So we created a stand-up piece on our intranet with all of the COVID transitions, all of the memos, all of the forms, everything COVID. Develop and implement a contact tracing program, initiate the hotline. So we had a COVID-19 hotline. We had to create and implement a communication plan because we were attempting to be transparent. I had my team emailing, texting, and calling employees directly, making sure that they were okay. So we were doing real touches. I mentioned the 24/7 churn. We were still maintaining employee kudos and recognition programs, still converting our internship program to 100% virtual, and then still maintaining things like the virtual birthday celebrations, retirement parties, recognition. That doesn't even have to do with performance management or any of the other stuff. This was the tip of the iceberg. So my red flags. I knew that there were changing expectations. We still had to hit targets. We were required to do 90-day plans. What were we going to do to be effective in 90 days and move our organization forward? I had this increased workload. I was still asking people to engage, but was I engaging them enough? And then, of course, the management of the stress that you feel when our staff is on the phone with people who just want to talk to somebody because they're lonely, who get the notices that people's family members have died or have passed away. Just the multitude of different circumstances that we had never dealt with before because we were in unprecedented times. And then I knew what my risks were. I was asking my team, is everyone okay? Have you called these people? Have you been on the phone? Can you send me your list? Who did you talk to? What kind of touch was it? But was I making sure that they were okay? Were people getting tired and trying to be enthusiastic, but as you're asking them more, was there the waning enthusiasm? Were we starting to fail to live up to our expectations? Was there a level of resentment? Because definitely there are people who are not working at all. There are people who are working on site, and then there are people who are working remotely. Not only was I expecting you to work remotely, but you were working around the clock. And a failure, the other risk for us is if all of these things started to happen for my team, it meant that our corporation would be impacted, that overall we were going to be in a place where we were not going to be able to engage the workforce because we were not engaged ourselves. So reimagine, reengage, and reunite is where I started. Didn't even know that those were the words until recently because it's what we decided to create as a new campaign for bringing people back on site into our workforces. But this is exactly what I had to do because I started to realize that we're only as good as we're taking care of ourselves. And so when we are reimagining, reengaging, and reuniting, some of the things that I found had the greatest value are the morning stand-ups. When we're doing the morning stand-ups, that means it's an opportunity for us to get together, my team, every morning at 9 a.m. And then, we went to maybe 3 days a week, but then we still had other biweekly meetings. It's a stand-up where we get an opportunity to make sure everybody is okay. Sometimes what you need for the care and tending and feeding is what's the general check-in? While I'm asking people to check in on others, I'm doing a check-in on my team. Sometimes it's just a good morning. We use Microsoft Teams a lot where our chats come up. And sometimes I might just ask people stupid questions on the chat and just see what they come up with or develop a power song for the day, because there has to be a level of levity. lots of team building exercises. And those can be in our stand-ups. Sometimes I'm asking people a question. I've got these decks of cards, and they talk about everything from impossible choices to, have you ever, and so lots of time where we're doing some things that help us get to know and understand each other better while we're at a distance. I got to the point where I had to tell people they had to take time off. And, I think people might think this is easy, but it really isn't. The requirement that they take time off was essential. And so at one point, I even said, before the end of this month, everybody here needs to take a few days off. And I don't want to see you online. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do anything. I just need you to get mental time so that you can be away. Because we all have the habit in this world where we're plugged in, where we've got the business phone, the personal phone, so if that phone is, you hear a bleep, are you going to check in while you're supposed to be off so you're not really off? Virtual team retreat, and I'll share a little bit more about that with you because I felt like it was really one of the best things I was able to do in working to help the team. And it was a week-long retreat. I know it's hard to believe that we could do something for a week that was virtual but engaging, but we were able to do it. One-on-one time with team members. Still continue to have one-on-one time with team members and find it to be invaluable. Each person has their own perspective. Each person, has different struggles. Each person is dealing with different issues. And if I don't get that one-on-one time, then I can't support my team. Trying to be empathetic. I think that this is something that we've seen a lot more over the last year and a half that maybe we hadn't seen before. But the empathy, the understanding, the putting myself in the shoes of the people on my team and hoping that it makes some level of difference. Celebrating, we celebrated a lot of things that were small. And in some instance, you celebrate the fact that somebody may have worked hard the night before. And I, did a few things where if somebody worked hard the night before, they might get a knock at their door and Starbucks may have delivered, coffee and their favorite pastry or breakfast sandwich or something. A way to show that there's a level of appreciation for you, that you may have been working really hard, but we're celebrating you individually because of what you've done, and you're valued. And also, I think the other thing was the celebrating our team accomplishments, recognizing what we have actually done, even though sometimes when we looked at our goals, it felt like had we progressed to where we were supposed to without acknowledging how much we had actually done and how much value we actually provided to our organization. And making sure everybody on that team feels valued. And I think sometimes during this process, I also realized that there are sometimes people on your team who feel like they might be marginalized or that they don't get enough credit for the things that they're doing. And I think I'm not the only one, but as team members, often we are saying to each other that you have value. We appreciate the effort that you make. We appreciate and value you every day for the contribution you're making. And kind of identifying the value proposition for each individual person. Doing what we can in person. And it's become a little bit more possible than it was for us to do some things that are in person. We're still in our building masking while you're in the building, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, but we're doing social distancing in our meetings and we're asking people permission if we do a presentation. So still trying to do things in person because there's some kind of synergy when that team gets together. And then creating enthusiasm. With all the hard work that we're expecting people to do during these times that are so difficult, I found it very important to make sure that we were enthusiastic in what we had to do. So every time we have to take a new goal across the finish line, my focus was in trying to share what it meant to our organization. So the retreat, I consider this a big ticket item. I really wanted to have an impact on my team, and I didn't want to do it by myself. So what I did was I got two program managers together and said, we need to make the team feel good. We need to talk about what we've done, but we have real goals we need to work on. So how are we going to do this? And we decided we would do 5 days. And I'm going to quickly take you through those days because I'm cognizant of time. And Matt knows that I'm one of those people who can run over. And so I wanted to build enthusiasm, right? So this is one of the invitations they got. This was about our retreat. It was asking people to save the date. I wanted people to be excited. I wanted them to be enthusiastic, not like, oh God, here we go. This is another retreat. That's not what we were looking for. Then they got this one where you see all these headshots. These are the members of my team in one way, shape, or form. And this was another message we were sending out saying, hey guys, can't wait to see you there. You know, these are the days, these are the hours, this is the time we're going to be there. And what was I saying? We're getting ready for the next level. This is us. Even in the biggest adversity of our lives, we are still going to the next level. Then they got this. This was about sharing our brilliance. So what I'm saying to my team is, you are brilliant and I need you to share it with us. You know, I need everybody to come and we need to be creative. We've got to use our imagination. We're going to develop new innovations. We're going to be solutions oriented. This was about fresh ideas, inspiring others, but really it was also to inspire ourselves. So as I worked with my two program managers, Gracie and Tammy, we came up with these, and Matt's going to make these available for you, where we had a series of days. And I'll run through what I think are the high points. You know, I did a welcome for everybody, but then I wanted everybody on our team to be included. This was not about one person or three people creating these experiences, because we were creating a retreat that was an employee experience. We picked a team leader for every day. We had a host every day. We had a series of things. You know, we sent our team, we went over housekeeping rules. You couldn't be looking at your phone during the retreat. You couldn't have the phone going off. You know, when we took breaks, you had to start on time and get back on time. We had icebreakers every day. You can see we did something about food because my team loves food, so it's always going to be something about food. We had an outside speaker. And then we had some other goals, and our team building exercise that day was us coming up with a song that we thought was the theme song for our lives. On our second day, it was infrastructure. We were talking about infrastructure, and we decided that we were going to do something that had to do with accountability, but we also did Adobe Creative Type so we could learn about each other's personalities. We had a goal day one. So we needed 2 days for goals. So it's serious work. We're putting it together, but we needed our speaker to come back. And the funny thing is that the speaker was scheduled for 1 day, but the team was so motivated by his questions and by the content of the presentation that they wanted him to come back another day. So I had to find out if he was available, and he came back another day. And then we did some brainstorming, and then we did the story behind your name. Again, this was about connectivity. It's about that personalization. It's not just tell me what the theme song is for your life, but tell me what the story is behind your name. Why did your family give you your name? Where is the value? And again, this was something where the team members were extremely excited because they got to hear where each person, you know, where they came from, what their family was about, what their families thought about, and the importance of your name. And we had our second goal day. We had something that was Events DC Bingo, and it was very lively as an icebreaker for the day. We looked at timestones and milestones for 2021, but we also talked about magical moments, right? What were magical moments in each person's life that were important to them? And again, that connectivity where that feeling resonates with each and every one of us. And so, you know, when we're thinking about each person picking magical moments in their lives to share with their peers, and the value that they brought to each of us individually, but also the insight it provided in how each person's life was. And each life was different, but it was valuable. Then we had a training day. So it was focusing on training that day, but we had decided in our group that we wanted to do journal time. And so we had everybody journal. And we picked a time to talk about what over the past week had been of value to us. What were the most important elements, what we walked away from the retreat. And this was voluntary. So if you didn't want to share your journal, you didn't have to. But we found that everybody came to the table wanting to share how they felt about the days. We did a virtual group lunch. I had lunch ordered to everybody's house. So everybody had something totally different, but kind of did lunch together. And then we did virtual communication exercise, which was hilarious because you were not allowed to actually talk. We broke the team into two and you couldn't talk. What you actually had to do was you could only send, the two teams could send communications back and forth to each other in text or in email. And what was extraordinary about it is we realized that it takes a whole lot to engage in virtual communication, but there was an appreciation for each of the teams and what we did. So what we walked away with after our retreat was renewed energy and a renewed feeling of value. And we also surveyed the team to ask them what they felt. And many of them, even today, will say that the highlight of this year for us as a unit has been the fact that we were able to do this retreat together, to not only focus on our goals and looking forward to the future, but to the time that we had getting to know each other and better understand each other, and acknowledge that sometimes, even though we were doing work, it was necessary for us to step back and refresh ourselves so that we could actually reimagine, re-engage, and reunite.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that's your story over the past, well, I suppose 15 months now. I always say that the greatest source of inspiration are people, and you've proven that again. That you're an inspirer, Misty, and the one real theme that came through in everything you've just shared with us is that you really cared about the people at work. You were paying attention to the people. We weren't talking about policies and anything. It's like we want to make sure. And then that retreat at the end, the stories behind people's names. It's, again, focusing on the people, empathy. It's very, very compelling. And you've made me want to quickly, if I may, say thank you to Stefan, who's behind the scenes, Amy, who's writing up the story for tomorrow, and Ruth, who's with her twins, doing over whatever the superhero stuff she does every day, watching on. So I just want to say thank you to the people I work with as well. So because it's been a tough year. So many challenges. How have you got through it? We talk about self-care. How have you got through this period? How are you?
A little bit tired, but I'm like you. I have a great team. And I also have a great family. And I think we've focused a lot, I think all of us during this year, being at home and being virtual, you're aware of so much more around you. Yeah. And I think trying to not to balance those two things, which was a little bit challenging because when you're at home, I will be very honest, I could go to my office at 7 or 8 in the morning. And in some instances, it could be 3 a.m. before I get upstairs. And I think part of that is loving what I do. And we were able to do some good things. I mean, we were very proud of the fact that even though our peers had to at Events DC, we did not have a reduction in force. We didn't lay people off. We continue to be able to maintain the workforce. Even the people who we had no work for, we were able to pay administrative leave so that they and their families could be sustained during this period of time. We wanted them to feel valued.
Well, thank you on behalf of them. Quickly, what was the theme song? The song the team came up with during the retreat that represented everybody.
So each person, everybody had every person had a different theme song that represented their lives. So it was very interesting to hear what people thought was a theme song for their life.
Fantastic. We do something similar on our podcast. We have ask every guest to give a song that inspires them and fires them up. So we've got a playlist of just totally random songs from different people and their loves and likes. So I love that idea. Ruth asked, what advice do you have for those who are overwhelmed right now? Where should they start, in your opinion?
Even if you're a solo practitioner, right? Everybody needs a sounding board. And sometimes when you're overwhelmed, that sounding board is either somebody in your organization or outside your organization who you respect.
Yeah.
And having someone who can listen to you and let you vent a little bit, it doesn't cost any money.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of your time and their time and a little courage. And I always say that that's the best place. And then I also say, looking at so many of the inspirers we have, I found that so many people are willing to be resources for you to help support you. And sometimes I just step back and think about everything that's going on around us and try to look at what are some of the positives. And, like when we were going through all of our goals, at one point we're like, well, wow, we didn't hit that goal and we didn't hit that goal and we didn't hit that goal. And then we're like, well, but we did this, and this. So I always say, look at your peers, because I think people are more willing than ever before to share information and insight and also to be encouragers. And
how did the mandated leave go down? Was there resistance to that? Because I went through the same emotion as well, running a team. And so I just said at some point during I don't think they weren't resistant to it, but I just said, look, you're having Friday off or you're having Monday off. This is a long weekend now. Don't want you to work. It's not part of the paid leave. It's just, and the response I've got in a year down the line or 6 months down the line was actually, thank you very much. You kind of took the pressure off a little bit, but I also felt bad about, forcing working for an inspiring workplace and telling people to have time off. It's a bit,
yeah, you're right. There is a little resistance to that. People telling you they have stuff to do. And I said, listen, we have this month, we've got loads of stuff going on. I need everybody.
Yeah.
And, there are some people who, of course, waited, to the hair of the last deadline to get time out. But I think each person really did appreciate it once they did it.
Yeah.
But, getting people, whoever thought you would have to fight people to take time off?
Well, right? Yeah. Awesome. Look, I've got so many questions. I think we would love to write this story up as well, and hopefully some positive news for the Events DC tomorrow. I see the trophies when we used to be the Employee Engagement Awards behind you. I don't know how I missed them until now. I'm just absorbed by your story. I suppose lastly, we have just had another pushback in the UK. I think the US is rolling out a really good vaccination program by the sounds of it too. How do you manage shifting deadlines? How do you manage planning when there is this uncertainty and you can't pin down a date?
You know what?
In your industry,
it's so funny that you say that, especially for an industry like this, right?
Yeah.
I have to say that the mayor for the district was really diligent and focused, right?
Yeah.
And in partnership with her, it was great that we were being very, very methodical. And I will tell you, because I'm an A personality, that I had a return to work plan ready. My team and I had put it together within 45 days of our closure. So we already had a return to work program, and, operations was like, whoa, when you first went out, we all thought we'll be back here in 2-3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
This is over. Right.
Yeah.
And so we already had our plan, and we kept thinking it would be here. Then, wow, okay, it's not going to be then. Well, wait a minute. So we've had the plan in place, and over the last weeks, we've been very focused, doing some in-person team meetings, and really now have honed in on dates where people will be coming back into the offices. So we just kept communicating with people, right?
Yeah.
A big part of this was not about the big announcements, but making sure that there was very good general conversation from our CEO, doing the digital town halls where people could ask him questions and he was sharing information, sending out regular communications to people. We were all, one of the things that I'll say is we became a better company with regard to communication and transparency during this period of time. We were focused on timely, clear, honest information. And we continued to communicate whether or not there was something big or small, just to have touch points. Those touch points have helped employees because, especially, you know, if you don't actually have work, the uncertainty around what's happening. So hearing that constant voice that we're okay, for right now we're progressing, right now we're going to stay status quo, whatever we've been doing, we're going to keep doing. That also gave people a little bit more confidence. And so as we kind of roll to this point, and we clearly understand that we were able to get through this period without having to lay our team off and starting to get a little bit of hope, right, at the end of the this really dark tunnel, that communication with our team, just for the small and big stuff, has been invaluable. So I would say a major plus for us was that we became better communicators, understanding that people need to hear from you during these times, and you cannot have silence because it doesn't breed confidence.
Fantastic. I think that's a really good place to end it. I wholeheartedly agree. You know, silence is deafening. Here you go. There's one from Gregory before we leave. Where were the touch points scheduled on a consistent time? Were they scheduled on a consistent time day or just as needed?
No, as needed, we would have, so we put a cadence together, right? We would do a town hall probably every other month. We would do a communication. So if we did a town hall in 1 month, we would do a communication the next month. And we continuously looked for ways for us to make that communication interesting, make it resonate for the staff. And so really, we were on a cadence with our CEO, so somebody heard from him every single month. We didn't have those periods of silence, whether they got live touch points with him or whether it was in writing.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that question. And thank you, Misty, for pulling this together in what is obviously a very busy time. And it was absolutely fantastic. Like I say, inspiring, lots of information in there. And good luck with the awards.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Hope to see you soon as well.
Okay, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Yes, so thanks very much to Misty. Just really, really insightful. And again, just showing the focus on the human beings at work. It really, really matters. We, like I say, have a big announcement tomorrow around EMEA and North America and the Inspiring Workplaces Awards in 2021. So good luck to all those people waiting to see if they're a finalist. We're also coming up to our first birthday, which is a bit strange. We've been around for 7 years and then rebranded as Inspiring Workplaces last year. And we want to actually involve you in that. So there's something coming from us tomorrow as well. We want to engage with you and ask your feedback and your opinions on certain things. So please look out for that. And tomorrow you have Ruth Dance and another awesome speaker from the Inspiring Workplaces Summer Series in partnership with H&H. So take care, have a great week, and see you soon. Bye-bye.